Right guys, welcome to another tutorial. We're trying to help you guys obviously with some of the basic designs. The reason we use basic designs is because we want to be able to replicate, sell, sell, sell. Once you get good at this, then obviously you can start adding your own little variation. So we've obviously done a sort of Carrera. This time what we're going to do is we're going to add a grey veined aspect into the white Carrera. So we're just going to lift it up a bit more. If you watch these in turn, you'll see the fact that we use the same technique and we just keep stacking it. So that's what we're going to do here. Right, so what do we need to get started? Well, let's start with the board. Obviously, we've got a pre-primed MDF board. We use these for sampling 400 by 400. So the mix, believe it or not, for a 400 board is 400 grams. Pretty handy that. So we've got pink tape. Don't have tape that's too sticky. Otherwise, when you come to pull it off, it just gets a little bit awkward. So we need obviously the resin. Resin of choice today is Jofa diamond cast, and we're going to go for the MV, which is for medium viscosity. Okay, I just like the way it flows and it reacts with obviously the colors and the isopropyl. So we've got 3 pots, okay, 2 of the same size. So when we mix 400 grams in these pots, we're going to have to repot it so we don't get any soft spots. If you don't repot it, there is a good chance that you're going to drop some resin or hardener that's not completely mixed, and that will just give you a nightmare. We always measure out our hardener as a separate so that we don't make any mistakes. You get your calculations wrong, turn into a nightmare. And then we've got some what we call accent pots for your greys and everything else. So we've got 3 of those just in case. The colors we're going to use today is graphite powder and white liquid tint. And then what we've got is isopropyl, big speckle, little speckle. We've obviously got our foam roller with a sharp edge for going round, which is always better. We've got our scales, our timer, always have blue roll handy. And this time we're going to be using a hairdryer, not a heat gun this time, hairdryer to push some of the pattern around, okay? And obviously your black gloves. Cool, let's get mixing. Right, so let's talk about the calculation. So for a 400 by 400 board, what we want is actually 400 grams of mixed product. So let's think about that. Let's just move those. So if we draw the pot, let's say we drew the pot, or drawn. Right, this is 2 to 1, okay. Therefore that means there's 3 parts. Therefore draw 3 equal parts, 400 grams. Okay, which breaks down into 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3. So if we look at this here, this is part A and that is part B. Therefore, part A collectively, okay, is 266, and therefore part B is 133. So we would mix 266 grams in the bigger pot and 133 in the smaller pot. Then we've got plenty of time to get ourselves together, mix them together, and then we're away. Wait till that zeroes out. Okay, take the resin. We got a bit carried away. Use a rag to take away the excess. I'm at 277, so I'm going to use the stick. 263, 267. Okay, right, if you have a problem and it zeroes out, all you need to do is to start again. Put the tub on, because what you want is you want just the weight of the liquid. So that's obviously needs zeroing out. Come on, there, 0. Put that on, 266. There you go. Now part B, which is obviously the hardener, we need 133. Okay, we can add the white tint at this point because that's going to be our main color. So if we zero this out again, okay, what we're going to do is add 10 grams. So we can remove the scales out of the equation. We can bring in our timer and set up our board. Every time you're doing the resin, the idea is to be relaxed, take your time, and because we've obviously got these two here, we've got all the time in the world. It's not until we start mixing that we're going to have to move. Right, so now we can start mixing. So add the hardener, press the timer, and mix for 3 minutes. Right, so first thing I do is I like to do my little accent pots. I'm going to do 2 today. One. This one I only need a little bit because it's the darker. And then I'm going to repot the rest. Mix the big one for another minute. Then we take the graphite powder, but you only add it to the bigger of the 2. Test it first. We want it a little bit darker today so it actually punches through. That's fine. And if you want to see, you just drop it into the white and you'll see the contrast. Now I want to mix a lighter grey, but I'm going to mix this one once I've done my first part of the design, so I can actually marry the 2 up a lot easier. So I'm just going to put those to one side. Right, let's get busy. So first things first, let's drop a pancake, which is usually about 1/3 of the mix. Let's just push it round. Doesn't have to be perfect, so we don't need to get all the way into the edges, just as close as we can. And then back and forth a few times just to level it out. And then if you want, you could just leave the roller there. I'm going to take the darker of the accents, and now let me just deal with that bit there. And then what we'll do is we always do this as 2. So we've got the tub and the stick, and we use the stick this way, not this way. Okay, and we're going to drizzle it. Okay. Just a bit of a basic design. That's all I want. And then what we're going to do is break it up, or chop it up as we call it, just to break up the design a bit. So underneath it's going to give us a little bit more pattern. So we swirl it, we roll it, we use the top end of it. Once we've got it to this stage, just make sure that we've got nothing that's really obvious. And now what we want to do is just try and start to push it in a direction so that when we lay the next, or the remaining of the white, as you can see, it's kind of giving us a bit of a design straight away underneath. And as you can see, I'm just using the roller. That's it. Just drop that back. I'll put that on there this time. So the white, what we're going to do with the white is ideally put it in the area where the white starts. So, and again, just try and keep it going in the same direction, because it'll all help. I'm leaving a little bit left. Okay, that can go there. This time, nice and light, and what we want to do is keep going in the same direction. And as you can see, the white over the top is just knocking back what's underneath. Underneath is what I refer to as a punch coat. So this now resembles the first board we did, and you could leave that as your basic subtle Carrera. We're going to go a little bit bolder with a little bit more detail. Now what I'm doing is just making sure that I get all the corners, and this is why I like the straight edge. Sometimes you're better off using your finger where the tape is, just so you don't actually force the resin over the top. So as you can see there where I went with the roller, I've got to deal with that bit so that we always have that design coming in the right direction. Cool. So that's where we are at the moment. So now what I'm after is a grey that is similar to the darkest tone. Well, that is clearly too dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this to that white until I get a colour that is of the darker tone that is there at the moment. Don't make the mistake of using this colour. It will just be way too strong. And if you want to check it near the darkest bit, that's not bad. Okay, this time we're going to use this as a pen or a pencil, whichever way you want to do it. And we're going to create some veins, okay? But we're not going to go directly over what's there. Sometimes just playing around with this, doing some drawings on a piece of paper, you'll just have some designs in your head. Makes life a lot better. Okay, so that's my grey at the moment. I'm quite happy with that. Cool. Now what I'm going to do is get the hairdryer and I'm just going to manipulate some of these. As you can see, it breaks it up really nicely. If you want to add any more, then again, just draw them in. If you want to change any, if you want to change the direction of some look, you can do that as well. Sometimes you just want to bring in some to break it up a bit without actually adding any more colour. As you can see, I'm just using what was already there just to break up some of these designs here. Right, then the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to hit it with a bit of isopropyl. And as you can see, what it does is it's quite strong at this point, but it will just blend back. So don't think that you've lost everything. You give it a little bit of time, and you can add obviously the hairdryer to it if you want, and again it will just break it up a bit more. So I quite like that. I think it's subtle, but it's obviously got the detail. This is obviously the next stage for what we've already done. This is light grey on a white Carrera. Okay, so all I'm going to do is just leave that a few minutes, probably about 2-3 minutes, and then I'll consider pulling the tape. I'm just going to pull this back because we've got a little bit here that hasn't got anything. The only other thing that I really like to do is when I pull the tape is just drop where your main areas are, is just drop on this tape here just some of the colour. And what I mean is literally on the tape. So you're dropping it in that little gap, because when I pull the tape, it's really going to help when it pulls over the edges. So again, just dropping it in these areas here. It seems a bit bold at this point, but it actually works really well. There you go. And as this pulls off, if it doesn't actually go at the right time, then don't panic. What we will do is just use our finger. So let's pull the board